Hey, good day everyone. Welcome back to the channel. And in today's video, I'm going to share with you some tips on how I work the best DX when I go out and do POTA activations. Stand by. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. This is Stuart, Victor Echo 9, Charlie Foxtrot in beautiful St. Antoine, New Brunswick. And today's video, I want to talk to you about how I go out and work DX and work a lot of DX. I'm not talking 5 or 10 DX contacts. I'm talking 150 to 200 DX contacts on every POTA activation that I do. So let's get into my reasons on how I work a ton of DX. First off, before I get into the video, I want to give a shout out to Dom and Jay, N4XL and K1MCO. They shared with me recently that they just activated their first POTA locations, getting 10 DX contacts before they got any North American contacts. So kudos to you guys, good job. Anyway, how I work DX. Here are my tips for working the best DX and lots of DX when you do your POTA activation. Tip number 1, you really need to understand how HF propagation works and the time of day to go out and work DX. For example, right now it's about 8 o'clock in the morning, Atlantic time. This is prime time to go out and work Australia on 20 meters. Put your beam heading at 330 degrees and work DX. Even if you got a dipole antenna or end-fed half wave, heck, I even work Australia on a vertical. You point it out 330 degrees. I'll talk more about antenna height in a second, but you get out there and you work Australia at 8 o'clock in the morning. At night, a 40 meter DX is alive, but you got to be under 7,200 for that one. And during the day, you're pretty open. You got to understand how propagation works and what bands to be on at what time of day. And once you figure that out, that's when the magic happens. Tip number 2, and probably one of the most important tips, make sure you have a really, really good antenna. Now, I've worked a lot of DX on my ATOS, on my pickup truck, my BB7V vertical. You guys have heard me rave about my BB7V vertical in other videos, and my ATOS in other videos, and my end-fed half wave. My end-fed half wave is my primary go-to HF or DX antenna. I always use my end-fed half wave whenever possible. Now, I get my end-fed half wave from myantennas.com. I really like that product. It works really good. They have 2 versions, the low power and high power, and that antenna just works. Now, here's the secret to getting the best DX with an end-fed half wave and maybe even a BB7V. You gotta get that antenna up at least a half wavelength. Now, I try to get it up a half wavelength on 15 meters. So that's gonna be 7.5 meters up in the air. Now, I know a lot of you guys are talking, so I can't get my antenna. I don't have room, I don't have ways to get it up that high. Trust me, you want to find ways to, I use Princess Auto 10 poles. I get it up off my pickup truck. It gets me at least 7.5 meters high. And then I just store it up in a tree on the other end and never have any issues. When you get your antenna up at least a half wavelength, you improve the directivity and you lower the takeoff angle. Below a half wavelength, you get more vertical skywave, the NVIS. Plays a factor, so you don't work as much DX. That's why I try to stay off 20 meters and work 15 and 10, because I can get my end-fed half wave up at least a half wavelength off the ground. And I just get a ton of DX on 15 and 10. Most of my DX contacts come on 10 and 15 because the bands are really, really good right now. And good antenna. Good antenna is one of the main things that you need to work a ton of DX when you do your POTA and worldwide Flora and Fauna activations. Tip number 3, join and participate in DX nets. Like I mentioned, 8 o'clock in the morning my time, which is right now around noon UTC. Maybe it's even a bit late. The Southern Cross DX net, which is open to Australia, is on 14207 around this time. Is the K5K Kilo Echo Echo. And that he runs on 14207. He gets a lot of Southeast Asians. At 2000 UTC is the 14247 DX net, which gets a lot of Europeans and Africans. You can join those nets as part of your POTA activation and work DX there. And the other thing that goes around with nets and working DX is, I don't call CQ POTA too much. Now I know some of you are going to go back on my old videos and say, oh, Stuart, you call CQ POTA. Yeah, I have, and I probably still do sometimes. But when I want to work serious DX, I call CQ DX, CQ band. I don't mention anything about POTA, and I don't mention anything about worldwide Flora and Fauna. I just call looking for DX. The next tip I can share with you for working great DX when you do your POTA and WWFF activations is use enough power. Sometimes you need to get a little bit more power to get out there and work DX. At a minimum, I'll work radio power 100 watts on my FT891, but I do have an amplifier. It gets me at least 300 watts, maybe 250 or 300 watts. And I find sometimes that is a little bit of the boost that I need in order to work DX and work DX, plentiful amounts of DX. I'm not talking just, Larry in France. I'm talking Mohammed in Kuwait, Oleg in Asiatic Russia. I'm talking about Weinard in Namibia. I'm talking some serious DX. And I, also when I'm talking about who I work, I focus on DX. I don't worry about working, Sam in New Jersey and Pete in Pennsylvania and Ken in Texas. Although I'm sure they're nice guys, but they're not my focus when I work, when I go out and do my POTA activations. I really couldn't care if any U.S. stations ever call me. Because working U.S. stations from here in Canada, I know there's the purists out there who say, well, Canada's, or U.S. is DX to Canada, Stuart. Well, yeah, it technically is, but for me, it's not. So working U.S. stations is not a challenge for me. Now, for you, it may be. Maybe you are one of these guys that likes to work your brothers across the country. But for me, that's not what ham radio is for. Ham radio is for seeing how far my little setup in the field can get out around the world. That's why I get excited when I hear Mohammed from Kuwait come back and I get that 9 kilo 2 call and give me a shout back. That's what excites me. The next tip I can share with you is make sure you set up in a good location. Get away from noise. Get into nature, and go to a park that's away from a lot of people, away from a lot of electrical interference and other man-made noise. Your chances of working DX will significantly improve if you can hear them. That's why I like going to remote parks where there's not a lot of people, and I like going to remote parks where there's not a lot of electrical noise. Get out there and go to places that you're not going to get a lot of interference. And one of the last tips I can share with you is where you spot yourself. Yes, spot yourself on POTA. Spot yourself on Worldwide Flora and Fauna. Even if you just spot yourself on worldwidefloraandfauna.co, you will get a whole bunch of DX. Just ask all the guys that I've talked to already, Whiskey 5, Whiskey Papa Sugar, K1MCO, guys like that who are now working Worldwide Flora and Fauna as well with their POTAs. They get a ton of DX, and if they're watching, you can leave a comment below just to verify that statement. But spot yourself on POTA, because there's a lot of DX stations that watch POTA. Spot yourself on Worldwide Flora and Fauna, CQGMA, but also the spotting pages like DX Summit and DS Watch. Don't forget about those. Spot yourself there. And don't say you're a POTA station. Go on there and say, you're a U.S. county or a U.S. state. Especially if you're a rare state or a rare county. There are people out there worldwide who want that state and work that county. Trust me. Make yourself appear to be as unique as possible. A lot of people comment and say, well, Stuart, you live in VE9. The VE9 is a very attractive prefix. So it is. Yes, it is. I also live near salt water, which helps. But I've also worked a ton of DX in the middle of the country in Ontario. Good antenna, good power, spot yourselves, good location, join nets. Those are some tips to help you get the most DX as possible when going out and doing POTA, Worldwide Flora and Fauna. I'm Stuart, Victor Echo 9, Charlie Foxtrot. I hope you like these videos. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll see you guys in a future video.